They told us the technology would end the arguments. They told us the ball could feel a hair, that the cameras could measure an armpit to the millimeter, that VAR would drag football kicking and screaming into an era where the right call always wins in the end. And then, England played Norway in Miami. A cable in the sky may or may not have kissed the ball. A goal that half the planet swears shouldn't have counted stood anyway. And suddenly FIFA is staring down the worst officiating scandal of the entire tournament, with a semi-final already booked off the back of it. Norway are on a plane home. England are 90 minutes from a World Cup final. And the internet has decided FIFA is either lying, broken, or both. So let's actually take this apart properly. Because the story is bigger, uglier, and frankly more damaging to the sport than a single missed camera wire. Start with the facts that nobody disputes. England beat Norway 2-1 in a Miami quarterfinal that will be talked about for a decade. Andreas Schjelderup opened the scoring in the 36th minute with a finish across Pickford that had the Norwegian end of the stadium in raptures. For 45 minutes, Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard looked like they were running a World Cup quarterfinal on their own terms. And then Jude Bellingham did what Jude Bellingham has done all summer. He picked up a loose ball on the edge of the box in first half stoppage time and buried it. 1-1 at the break. Everything that followed, the second half Norway pressure, the disallowed Hegem header, the extra time Bellingham winner off a spilled Neelan save, all of it flows downstream from that equalizer. And that equalizer is the goal that FIFA now has to defend to a very, very angry football world. Because here is what Norway say happened, and here is what the replays appear to show. Nyland's long clearance up the pitch checked in mid-air. It didn't dip. It didn't swerve. It behaved like a ball that had struck something solid. It dropped almost vertically to Elliot Anderson, who fed Gordon, who fed Bellingham, who finished. Nyland pointed at the sky before the ball had even stopped rolling in the net. Haaland pointed at the sky. Solbakken stormed the fourth official at halftime and pointed at the sky. Every single Norwegian on that pitch and on that bench said the same thing. The Skycam cable. The ball hit the cable. And under the actual laws of the game, this matters enormously. Because if a ball in play strikes an outside object like a suspended camera wire, that is textbook outside interference. The referee is required to stop play and restart with a dropped ball. No goal. If Norway are right, the equalizer never existed. England go into halftime a goal down. The entire tournament pivots on a piece of aluminum hanging 40 feet in the air. FIFA's response was fast, confident, and absolute. The connected ball technology, they said, showed nothing. No spike, no impact signature, no touch. 16 antennas under the stadium roof, all active, all reporting the same thing. The ball hit nothing. The camera footage doesn't shake. The wire didn't move. Case closed. And this is where the whole thing detonates. Because that same technology, in this same tournament, ruled out a Croatia goal for grazing a strand of a player's own hair. A hair. Thomas Tuchel, England's own manager, said the quiet part out loud in the press conference afterward, when he pointed out the chip can register a hair touching it. So we're now being asked to swallow a version of reality where a sensor precise enough to feel a single follicle of human hair somehow felt absolutely nothing, when a ball allegedly smashed into a steel cable. Either the ball genuinely didn't touch the wire and Norwegian eyes deceived an entire bench in real time, or, and this is the theory gaining traction fastest, the tracking antennas simply don't reach the airspace where the Skycam cables live. Meaning the miracle ball has a blind spot in exactly the part of the sky where this incident happened. Meaning FIFA sold us infallibility and delivered a system with a hole in the roof. And if it stopped there, you could call it terrible luck and move on. It doesn't stop there. 10 minutes into the second half, Norway scored again. Torbjorn Hegem bundled home from a corner. The stadium erupted. And then VAR intervened, dragged referee Clement Turpin to the monitor, and disallowed the goal for a Haaland shove on Anderson in the build-up. And look, on the replay, it is a push. 2 hands. Clear enough. Under the stricter grappling standard FIFA announced before this tournament, you can absolutely justify chalking it off. That is not the argument. The argument is the contrast, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. At one end of the pitch, VAR sat frame by frame through a corner routine, looking for upper body contact that happens on literally every single set piece in world football. Found it. And wiped out a goal. At the other end of the pitch, a ball visibly changed direction in mid-air seconds before an England goal, and VAR didn't even glance up at a camera angle to check the airspace. One end of the field got a microscope. The other end got a blindfold. That is the scandal. Not the cable. Not the push. The inconsistency. And this is the part FIFA cannot spin their way out of. Because a system you cannot predict is a system you cannot trust. Nobody watching this match, not the pundits, not the players, not the fans in the stadium, could have told you in advance which incident VAR was going to treat as forensic and which one it was going to wave through. And when the answer flips depending on the moment, the technology stops being an arbiter and starts being a lottery. Now let me be fair, because I don't want to sell you a robbery that isn't one. Both of these calls are defensible in isolation. The chip really did report nothing. The chip really is absurdly sensitive. There is a genuine possibility that the ball behaved the way it did because of the humidity, the altitude of the strike, the way it was hit, and not because of a cable at all. Refereeing analysts have made the fair point that a VAR isn't realistically going to be scanning the roof structure of a stadium while an attacking move is developing. And there is real institutional pressure not to be so aggressive about hunting for problems that you invent them out of thin air. The Haaland push was a push. The rules are the rules. And Bellingham's winner in extra time, the goal that actually decided this match, had nothing to do with any of it. It came off a knee-on spill, on a routine Rodgers shot. That is on Norway. That is on the goalkeeper. That is football. Even Haaland himself, who had every reason on earth to burn the place down, refused to. He called it a 50-50 that went against them. He said England were a good side. Solbakken said he could sit and cry about it and wasn't going to. When the losing team is that measured, you should be careful about being angrier than they are. And here is the detail that quietly kills the idea that VAR simply spent the night in England's pocket. It went against England too. Late in the game, Jed Spence went down under an Oscar Bob challenge. Turpin pointed to the spot, the stadium held its breath, and VAR pulled him to the monitor and overturned it. That is a penalty in a World Cup knockout game, taken away from England. In the closing stages by the same VAR crew people are accusing of favoritism. This isn't a fix. This is chaos. It's a referee and a video team making a string of debatable decisions that scattered in different directions on the same night, which is somehow both less sinister and much, much worse. Because incompetence is harder to fix than corruption. Corruption you can root out. Corruption you can suspend. Incompetence dressed up in $12 million of sensor technology and sold to the world as the future of the sport is a structural problem. And FIFA has spent this entire tournament proving they have it. This is the World Cup of the Bunu red card being erased after what looked suspiciously like a phone call, of Egypt filing a formal complaint about officiating standards, of the Embolo dismissal that gutted Switzerland's campaign, of half the group stage matches ending with someone screaming at a fourth official. The Skycam saga didn't land in a vacuum. It landed on top of a compost heap FIFA has been building since the opening whistle in June. And so when the cable story broke, nobody reached for coincidence. They reached for here we go again. Alfie Haaland, Erling's father, posted a pointed little well done Bellingham and referee online within hours. That is the reputation FIFA has manufactured for itself, brick by brick, decision by decision, all summer. And here's what makes it genuinely dangerous for the sport. There is a version of this where the reaction would be nuclear. If that cable goal had rescued Brazil or Argentina or France, half the football internet would already be insisting FIFA rigged the wiring themselves. The only reason this hasn't fully exploded is that England, for all their history of victimhood narratives, are not a team the neutral world instinctively suspects of getting help. Yet, give it another controversial call in the semi-final against Argentina on Wednesday, and that ceiling comes down in a hurry. Because that is where this story is heading next, and FIFA knows it. England versus Argentina, Atlanta, Wednesday night, the tie of the tournament. Bellingham on the hottest streak of any player in this competition. 6 goals. Past Jeff Hurst in England's all-time World Cup record book at 23 years old. 2 multi-goal knockout games in a single tournament, something no Englishman has ever done. Tied with Lineker and Kane for the single tournament England record. He has been man of the match so many times he's going to need a separate flight home for the trophies. He is right now the best player at this World Cup by a distance, and it is not close. And he is walking into a semi-final where every single 50-50 decision, every VAR check, every offside line, every whistle is going to be scrutinized like a crime scene. Because FIFA has burned through its own credibility so thoroughly that even the correct calls are going to be met with a sneer. That is the actual damage here. Not that Norway were robbed, because it isn't clear that they were. Not that England cheated, because they didn't. The damage is that FIFA has spent a decade telling the world the machines would end the debates, and in the biggest quarter-final of the tournament they produced a decision that no chip, no camera, no antenna and no press release has been able to put to bed. They have made their own technology look like a magic trick that only works when they want it to. And once you have done that, every future call and every future match sits under the same shadow. Norway fly home from the greatest tournament in their footballing history. A first ever quarter-final, built almost entirely on Haaland goals, ended by two decisions that in a slightly fairer universe might have gone the other way, and by a goalkeeper spill that had nothing to do with any of it. And there is a genuinely cruel footnote in there, because Haaland, the man who dragged them to this stage almost single-handedly, finished the biggest match of Norway's football history, with the fewest touches of any player on the pitch, fewer than half his own goalkeeper. Suffocated, starved of the ball, then taken off injured in extra time. For a nation that arrived in America announcing itself as a genuine force, it was a quiet, aching, deeply unfair way for the dream to die. And England march on with a semi-final, a superstar, a genuine shot at their first World Cup since 1966. And a cloud over their equalizer that is not going anywhere. Not this week. Not this tournament. Maybe not ever. So the question I want to leave you with is the one FIFA has spent the entire summer refusing to answer. What is the point of the most advanced officiating technology ever built into a football, if the humans holding the remote control cannot be trusted to press the button the same way twice? Do you believe the chip over your own eyes on that cable? Or is VAR in its current form finished as a credible authority in this sport? Drop it in the comments. Tell me who you've got winning England versus Argentina on Wednesday, and stay locked in, because if you thought the Norway match was chaos, you have not seen anything yet.